There were 168,900 jobs were reported in the field of data science by United States Department of Labor, and they are predicting that this number is going to grow by 35% when it reaches to 2032. This is a crazy stat and tells you how much demand is going to be in the field of data science. This video's podcast guest, whose name is Pradyuman, he did exactly this. He comes from a background of mechanical engineering, no coding background, and he yet figured out how to build his profile to become a data scientist. He graduated from NYU, is now working as a data scientist, and in this video, I promise you, if you watch the entire video, you will know exact steps to build your profile to become a data scientist, or at least to build your profile to get a job in a data science field. I hope you find this video helpful. Thank you, Pradyuman, for doing this again. This is round 2. So let's do a quick round of intro for people who might have not watched the first part of the video.
Hi everyone, I'm Pradyuman. I'm from Thane, Maharashtra in India. I'm currently doing my MS in scientific computing at NYU. I'll be graduating in about 15 days, and as soon as I graduate, I'll be joining a fintech startup as a data scientist.
And also for people who don't have the context, I do want to mention that you did your bachelor's in mechanical engineer.
Yes,
You do not have any work experience
no,
in AI or ML field,
yes.
and obviously you got internships and full-time jobs. So that's where I want to really start that. Okay, so first part in the video we talked about how you broke into the tech industry, how you started getting interview calls.
Mhm.
This one I want to talk about what is the preparation you did, and then how did you start cracking the interviews. So let's talk about the preparation for someone who wants to become machine learning engineer or data scientist. What kind of preparation they have to do, and what did you do for your preparation?
100%. So, as you mentioned, I'm coming from a mechanical engineering background, and my coding skills were next to zero. So, I had to build everything from a platform where I did not know anything. So, the very first thing I did was start solving lead code questions. And for, let's say, data scientists or a machine learning engineer positions, you don't need to solve 500 or 600 lead code questions. It's just that you need to be able to code efficiently, and for that, if you are able to do
Mm,
lead code mediums, and then let's say if you have practiced 100 or so lead code mediums, that's enough as well. So the very first thing I would do is like get proficient in a programming language. My preference is Python. So, and I feel if you're getting into data science, then Python is the language for you as well. So yes, first I started coding itself, some practice, some lead code questions, and then after that, it's like, I think I mentioned this about in the last podcast as well. It's about picking a specific project you want to do, and then honing the skills specific to data science.
Before we move on to the next exciting part of the video, I just want to quickly mention about my newsletter community. We have more than 8,000 people who is receiving weekly free newsletter where we combine all the information which you're watching in this video into text format, which is easily digestible. It's a free, no cost to you. Also, we send out resources like product management guide, data analyst guide, job openings, and other resources which we have going on. So if you're interested in receiving such informative newsletter straight to your inbox, consider subscribing. You can simply go to udj.com/newsletter, or you can even go to the link in the description and it'll take you to the same page. And now I'll let you enjoy the next part of the video.
Let's say I'm interviewing for a machine learning intern or a machine learning engineer position at Spotify,
Mm.
as an example. I would try to find people in my similar position uh, on LinkedIn and reach out to them and then ask them, hey, could you just guide me through what a day looks like a coffee chat? Guide me through what a day looks like, guide me to what you guys do, so that you get to know in your head, okay, this is their task and this is what they are doing. So I guess they'll be asking you questions on this. And then you could also ask them specific questions like, hey, what did you face in your interview? Could you help me with that? And then
Mm.
if you guys resonate and then connect well enough, they can tell you, oh, hey, this is the kind of questionnaire that I was asked, and this is the kind of questionnaire I think you should be preparing for. So reaching out to people is
Mm.
100% that. Second is go to the job description, and you've already applied for the job and you have your resume. That means your resume is a hit. You know for that. For sure. So look at the projects on your resume. Look at the job description. Okay, the job description has these skills, and try to match these skills with the project that you have done. Okay, PyTorch. Where have I used PyTorch in my projects? Okay, I have used it here. So if they ask you in the interview, okay, tell me about your experience, and you should be able to immediately pick it up from your resume and talk about it. And it's always good to talk about your resume because it is a super hit. I mean, it's not going to let you down. It's the reason you have been selected. So you can just go
Mm,
in deeper, talking about things that have been mentioned on your resume. So second thing would be that going to the job descriptions and creating stories related to the projects that you have done and the skills on that job description. So that would be another thing that I highly recommend students to do. And final thing that I suggest is, uh, when you are actually preparing for these interviews, I recommend you guys make a document of things that you are going to prepare for. Meaning, whatever information you collected from linking up to people on LinkedIn, whatever information you
mm,
connected from the skills that are mentioned in job description, and whatever information you think, because your perspective is also really important, because you are interviewing for that position, and you might have a feeling that this and this might be us. So make a note of all of these things in a Google Doc, and try to cover as many things as you can, like go through as many things as you can. One of the good ways to do this is also going through the courses that you have taken at your college or university, because
mm.
you're preparing for a position, you have studied that at NYU or whatever college you're attending. So it's a good practice to go through all the material that you have studied so far, just because it should be at the back of your head, and if they ask it, you should be able to say. So that's also another thing that I would recommend students to do.
Yeah, and I agree with the resume point because they will ask you things in your resume because that's the only thing they have judged you based on. Unless obviously it's a referral based interview, then maybe a little different. But they will still like this is the only reference point for them. So they are like, okay, you mentioned this, so can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about it?
Yeah, and in my experience, all of my technical interviews have been on my resume. Like, they don't care about how
Mm,
much knowledge I have in machine learning. They want to know, in the projects that I have done, why did I take the decisions I took? Was it just because it was mentioned
mm,
somewhere, or is it because I noticed some pattern in the data and I was like, if I, let's say, tune my learning rate a little low, or reduce my learning rate a little low, and my model might start performing better. Like, have I gained that insight of looking at the data and making a decision, or I'm just blindly making the decisions? So that's also one thing. They'll ask you why you have made the decisions that you have in your project. So make sure to pay
mm,
attention to those things. Like, the basic things that you need to start with is PyTorch. You need to know PyTorch if you're getting into machine learning engineering or machine learning engineer, data scientist position. Then you also need to know, if possible, TensorFlow. But if you're doing PyTorch, TensorFlow is optional, but I recommend you should playing around with pandas, try playing around with JAX. JAX is a modern framework that is not used as much, but is going to be used a lot soon. I mean, if it started being used already, then great. But yeah, I highly recommend take a look at JAX. Then not just Python, try to learn CUDA as well. That's a programming languages which
mm,
helps you, run your code very close to the hardware. So if you want, you can it's like skip the inefficiencies in Python and directly run everything on CUDA, let's say on multiple GPUs. So that's another tool that you can use. Try to learn as many things as you can, and then keep be current. And then uh, like JAX and CUDA, for example, are two things that are coming up recently. As I mentioned in the last podcast, high performance computing engineer is one of the roles that is coming up in machine learning. So these two tools are becoming very important if you're getting into a machine learning role. And then, because it's not about just creating, a model and then letting it be there and it running a little slow. It's also about the efficiency of the model. And as a tip, these days, Tesla is moving towards, building everything on C++ rather than Python. So I would,
mm,
yeah, so I
mm,
would definitely recommend like machine learning engineer, C++, all those, and not just stick to Python. So those would be some
mm.
tools that I highly recommend. And then don't stick to just these, keep researching.
Okay, so you started preparing for the interview and now you have the interview process going
Mhm.
on. What does the typical interview process for data scientist, ML engineer look like?
Oh, sure, 100%. So, one thing that I want you guys to know is this machine learning or data scientist role comes under the umbrella computer science. So, they still want to test your coding skills. So, the very first thing for most companies is going to be a coding test, or maybe a test that they send you, hacker rank, lead code, whichever test they send you, and then that's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, a lead code, medium, or a lead probability of hard is low, but a lead code medium coding test. That's the very first step. If you do well on that test, pass all test cases,
Mm.
do it in time. Second is most probably going to be a quick round with the hiring manager or one of the senior
Mm.
members, just testing your technical skills and if you're worth pursuing further or not. So I feel the second round is going to be just with the hiring manager. Then there'll be another round with another employee in the team. Again, let's say first interviewer tested you from one perspective, the second interviewer would test you from another perspective. And finally, I feel they'll ask you for a virtual round, which is virtual on-site or actual on-site, which would be a if 5 hours easily. The virtual on-site is going to be like 5, 6 hours easily. So
Wow.
you still have like four interviews, and then one of them is posted. But yeah, these technical rounds, if you do well, you should be great.
So
That's
what do
an
they
average structure.
ask in this like 5 hour round or even in the technical round? What kind of questions do they ask?
So, a question, as an example question could be, let's say, if you're interviewing for a computer vision-ish machine learning role, example question could be, hey, this is what my input to a convolutional layer looks like. And hey, this is my filter dimensions. What do you think is going to be my output? And they are expecting a prompt, like output answer from you, because you should know this by now. If let's say XYZ is the input dimension and then ABC is your filter size. You should know that MNO is your output dimension. Now, I'm not putting all those numbers because I don't want to, stress up myself with this with this more than this podcast. But you get my point. That's
Yeah.
an example question for this. Then they might also like one of them is obviously going to be resume based, but then I'm talking about questions which are related to machine learning. So they might also ask you, do you know about optimizers? Like there are multitude of optimizers. Adam is one of them, but there are RMS, there is RMS prop, and then there are so many more, going to gradient descent with momentum. So you need to know about these things, even though they are like things in the which were used in the past and probably not used today. But if you know the basics, you'd be able to build on it and then understand the more advanced stuff. So they definitely ask you about actual machine learning questions. And the second thing is, as we mentioned earlier, they ask you about resume. So these are the two things.
Do they usually like hands-on tech interviews or what do you call whiteboard sessions? Do you usually have whiteboard sessions?
If you're interviewing for a full-time role, what you might get more is a technical assessment. So they'll give you, let's say, a data science problem statement, and data science problem statements aren't usually, you won't be able to solve it within like an hour or two. So they'll give you an assessment and they'll give you a week, and they'll be like, hey, at the end of the week, could you just prepare a presentation on how you have solved the assessment? So that is, I feel,
Mm.
more common in data science than the coding, hands-on coding with like the interviewer itself. So they'll give you an assessment and they'll give it to you for a week, and then you have to do it. Topics, I mean, rather than going into a specific question, I'll just go over the kinds of topics that these interviewers would like to cover, and the kind of topics yourself should be, prepared for these interviews. And very basic, let's say, algorithms, tree-based, recursion, dynamic programming algorithm. These are for the first test that you get, the programming
Mm.
test. Then the kind of, let's say, for C++ based, let's say if you're interviewing for high performance computing engineer role, they might ask you top questions on inheritance, ki how does class inheritance benefit things, and then they might ask you a subtle topic in inheritance which is not usually taught in class, and then they'll be like, okay, what's your opinion on this, or even simple software engineering principles like, hey, how is documentation, where does the importance of documentation lie in the entire process, in the entire machine learning pipeline, and simple questions like that. uh, these are the questions that I feel you would expect the very beginning of the process, because these aren't really machine learning oriented questions, but they are good fundamental CS questions. So for machine learning oriented questions, you would need to know, let's say, how a feed forward neural network works, how the back propagation works in a normal neural network, not anything
Mm.
crazy like of how basically a bot works. You definitely will be able to. And if you want to learn about how bot works, then check out again Jay Alamar's bot blog post. Amazing way he has explained how bot works. But you at least need to know how feed forward neural network works, back propagation works.
Mm.
Then you need to
Mm.
know, let's say, how propagation works through filters. What is, let's say, a receptive field of a particular neuron in a in a filter? Then how many flops or floating point calculations are done per per layer in a neural network? Those are the kind of questions you'll ask. They'll give you like specific layer. Hey, here are the layer dimensions. Here is my here are the input dimensions. Here is the filter dimension. How many floating point operations do you think will occur in this? You need to know how to calculate floating point operations. Then they'll ask you questions related to architecture. Like these are the most prominent architecture I feel, and most of them, if you see, are vision-based architectures. But you need to know how, like, general idea of AlexNet and how it has been improved over the previous architectures, GoogleNet, VGG,
Mm.
RCNNs, LSTMs, RNNs. What's the difference between LSTMs and RNNs? That's a good question. Then they'll ask you if it's a really research oriented role. They'll ask you questions like, okay, how are transformers being used in vision statements, vision problem
And
statements?
all these topics, people can like, how do they find? So these are the topics, right? Like
Hmm.
AlexNet or RNNs and BERT and all of these.
Hmm.
So can they just say interview questions on BERT online and they can find the interview question and start preparing, or how would someone like prepare for these?
So how would you prepare for this is, for example, let's say bird, because I have a great example on bird. What you would do is you would try to find a paper or a blog post, a really descriptive blog post, which is highly regarded in the industry, and you'll go through it. And once you go through it, you'd be able to answer any question related to it. For example,
Mm.
if you're able to see my screen, I will just show you as an example, and I keep on mentioning this guy because he is a great blog post writer. Let's say Jay Alamar's book, if you see illustrated, but he has made a blog post on how BERT works from the very fundamentals. If you go through this for, let's say, and it's a huge blog post, it's not a small blog post, it's a huge blog post. But if
Mm.
you go through this
Mm.
little by little, and if you understand, let's say, if you read one blog post in 2 days, that's great as well. Your knowledge improves, you know how models work, and then you will start to get even the insights. Okay, oh, this, if I change this small thing for this small model, I might be able to even improve the performance. And that's how curiosity sets in, and then you start doing things. So if you want to answer these
Mm.
questions, you would need to read these blog posts and
Mm.
learn about how these models actually work from the very ground. So that's
Mm.
one way to prep for these interviews. There are tasks, segmentation tasks, detection tasks, and there are many more tasks in vision, but the cities. Then you want to also know about cost functions, what are cost functions, and check all of them out. Regularization, how regularization helps. Then GPUs,
Mm.
and this is very specific to high performance computing rules, like GPUs. So what kinds of architectures, and these are not machine learning architectures, these are architectures for you to train and inference these machine learning architectures. So and if you want to know what I mean, just Google these up, and then you will understand what ring all
Mm.
reduce architecture is, 2D topology is, and all those things. And optimization algorithm. This is what I was talking about. Gradient descent. You need to know how it works. You need to know how AdaGrad works, RMS prop works. Then look up
Mm.
what activation functions are. Definitely check them out.
Yeah, from your, experience of interviewing, what are some of the mistakes you feel like you made, or you would like say that these are the mistakes I made and I don't want you to make, or you've seen people making these mistakes?
The very first thing I do is I feel I am not good enough. And you should never feel like that, especially before an interview, and before an interview with big tech companies. I have always felt, oh my God, like this seems like a great position. It's a dream position, but I just get the feeling, am I really good enough? And that starts to like coming in
Mm.
my brain, and then it plays with me, and then I'm not able to prep for the interview. So that's the very first psychological thing I want you guys to know. You
Mm.
have come to the US, and then I've just realized it. You've come to the US, you're studying in a great university, you are good enough. You have got the interview. The interviewers feel you are good enough. Now it's just your time to show. That's the very first
Mm.
mistake I have made.
Mm.
Uh, More mistakes I've made is,
It's
as I
also
mentioned,
for people who don't know, that's called imposter syndrome. Like
yes,
where you feel that you are not good enough. That's like a very common imposter syndrome feeling that um, if you get an interview from Facebook, you're like, I don't think I'm good enough to be in Facebook. Or when you talk to someone who works in Facebook, you feel like there's no way I'm that good. So, but reality is
yes.
different. Like that's why you don't want to go on feelings, you want to go on facts. Fact is that they selected you for the interview, so that's why you need to remove your feelings and then keep working on actual preparation. So that's thank you for sharing that. It is a very common imposter syndrome feeling.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I've screwed up so many interviews because of that. Trust
Yeah.
me. So yeah, that's one of the mistakes I've made. Second mistake I've made is, let's say, I try to sometimes, get into the very finer details a lot and miss fundamental concepts. I mean, I know them, but when an interviewer is asking me about fundamental concepts, they want a prompt, a very quick answer from me, and not me. Oh, okay, yeah, like that. That you should never
Mm,
be. Let me think about it for a second. For fundamental concepts, so try focusing on the fundamentals a lot. And by what I mean here is, as an example, so I was given this interview question like, rank the importance of documentation, uh, correctness of a code, efficiency of a code. For example, these three in a big institution. Let's say you're a developer at a big institution. Like, what is the importance of these things? And then you should know the most important thing is documentation, because it is. Even if your code is wrong, it doesn't matter. If you've written why you think it's wrong and what your code is doing right now, someone later can come and correct your code. Those kind of
mm,
things you should not need to think about. It's there, it's code. But my answer was very okay. Let me think about it for a second. My interviewer was really cool, but it did not leave a great impression. So be
mm.
smart about your answers. Um, Give your answers properly and prepare the fundamentals properly, the very first thing, rather than going into depths of machine learning or data science. So those will be the two things I feel you need to focus
Mm.
on.
All right, so you made it to the final round. The offer stage is there, and you started getting offers.
Mhm.
What is the typical money ML engineer, data analyst, scientist make? Like everybody wants to know, "Bhai, paisa kitna kamate ho?" So how much money what's the salary range for data scientist or ML engineer?
Yes, that's a great question. And yeah, motivator for a lot of students is money. And I'll tell you, so it's a big range. Like let's say it starts from somewhere like 75,000 to and goes up to 220, 230,000. So it's highly
Mm,
dependent on your location. It's highly dependent on if your role is junior data scientist, senior data scientist. And things that I am mentioning is for the experience of 0 to 1 years. This is not for like people who have experience. This is for freshers, right? Freshers. So from 75,
wow.
yeah, 75 to 220, you can easily make. I have friends who have been offered this year 180K, 190K starting packages.
Wow.
Yes, by big tech companies. So you can easily make 180, 190, and big tech, being a fresher with 0 to 1 years of experience easily.
Nice.
Yes.
Did you take loan for NYU?
I did. I did. I took a loan from HDFC, sadly, and I'll tell you in a second why. Because my interest rate is so high. My interest rate is 12.25. I took a loan of the entire. I took a non-collateral loan, an entire 45 lakh rupees non-collateral loan from HDFC Credit.
Now that you have this job offer, do you feel confident that you'll be able to pay off the loan?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's just that I want to play
Nice.
it quicker. It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't worry about loans. Meaning, if anyone is worried that I'll have so much loan, I'll come to the US, what if I don't get a job? You work hard enough?
Yeah, That's the heart of the issue which I was trying to get at is so I was trying to like understand first what you would say and then get to the question. But yeah, ultimately a lot of people ask me the same question, like, is it worth $70,000? Is it worth $80,000? Is it worth? I'm like, I mean, it's worth for me because I know I'm gonna put in my hard work and I know the results are gonna be awesome. But
Yes.
I don't know if you come here and you don't pay, like if you don't work hard. So it just depends. But that's why I asked you if you feel like you're gonna be able to pay off, and looks like you are. So
Yes.
for you, was it worth it?
Absolutely worth it. There is no doubt
Mm.
about it. Like that loan looks so minor at this point. Yeah, I'll agree that in the initial stages did look a little daunting, but I feel if you work hard enough, your efforts will come to fruition. Don't worry about it.
Mm.
You will be able to
Mm.
pay off the loan, and it was absolutely worth it for me.
What are some of the misconception about ML or AI or data scientists?
I have friends who have graduated done their BTech from IITs, and then who are not in machine learning or data science, but they are in software engineering field. And I've talked to them, and they feel for some reason machine learning or data science is a hard field. Like it's difficult to become big in this domain, and that's really not the case. Honestly, that's really not the case. I really feel machine learning is a simple domain where you make common sense decisions based on your common sense, and just that.
You make
just,
it sound so easy. I don't think that it's that easy.
no, it is. Trust me. You just sit at your PC. As an example, you just sit. If the model is not learning properly, okay, you tune the hyperparameters a little bit. You see, okay, these days you don't even have to do that. There is randomized search for you to tune hyperparameters as well. Basically, you don't have to do anything. You just sit. You make decisions based on common sense. You read things. You try to learn, and that's it. Like I feel the more
Mm,
efforts you put in, it will become very easy. So it's like this. Calculus, for example, looks really difficult. Since I am a TA and I'm a calculus TA, I feel like for first year undergrad students in the US, calculus seems very difficult for some of the kids. And it's like once they start doing it and they do it regularly, at the end of the semester, some like people who actually study properly, they are the ones telling me, hey, this is one of the easiest subjects I have studied because it's like you're given a problem statement, you do this, and you have an output. That's it. There's nothing more.
mm,
It's not like English language exam where it's like very subjective. Similarly, data science is very similar. You're given an accuracy to hit. You do some things. You try to hit that accuracy. If you are able to, amazing. If not, can't really help it. But there is a metric there that you want to hit. So I feel if you read things properly, you put in the hard work. It's a very simple domain. It's based on your common sense. You just have to keep reading things, and then just have to keep yourself updated. And it's not difficult. That's the biggest misconception I have heard from my friends who are not in data science.
the people who are worried about that, can they become machine learning engineer or data scientist, whether they are from that field or they are from different field like you, from
Mhm.
mechanical engineer, civil engineer, would you say they can, or would you say it's hard to break into?
Oh no, easily. I mean, look at me. I told you guys, my story is for 4 years I did mechanical engineering. Absolutely nothing related to data science, leave nothing related to computer science. So now within 2 years I was able to get couple internships and a job. I can guarantee that you guys would be able to like crack into this domain. Yes, 100%. It's not difficult. Even if you have done your undergrad in civil, textile, any undergrad, it's fine. It's just you come here, you put in a little bit of efforts, and then you will just see those efforts come up good in life. That's it. Like 2 years. I feel 2 years is more than what you need. And then you have a master's for 2 years. So I feel you'll definitely be able to crack into data science.
What's the Before we end the podcast, what's the
Mhm.
one tip would you give for aspiring people who are in either NYU wanting to come to United States or looking for ML job?
Only thing that I'll tell you guys is like try to put in hard work. Like try to work hard, and when you come to the US, let your mindset be along these lines. Whatever I've done in the past, amazing if it's been positive, but if it's not been positive, I've come here now. Let me work hard. and if I work hard, things will become like great. That's what I want you guys' mindset to be. Just bring your mindset to be that you're going to work hard and you will work hard, and if you work hard, things are going to be turning out right. And if you keep that mindset, I am sure all of you guys are going to be successful.
How much time did you spend in preparation and finding the job and doing all the prep work, building your portfolio? How much time did you spend in a day?
Okay, so that varies a lot. If you're just talking about getting an internship and preparing for interviews, I feel everything except I wouldn't say, I would also include college assignments to be a good part of preparation for interviews. But if you're just focusing on getting let's say if you're just focusing on getting internships, then I would say 2-3 hours a day just to research things and send messages to people, and I would put another 3-4 hours a day preparing for when you get an interview. And that preparation also includes personal projects and let's say class projects. So basically, that preparation includes everything. And then I'd say another couple
Mm.
hours or few hours for your college. So that's
Mm.
how the structure would look.
So if you are sleeping 8 hours and all the other like daily life activities you would do, like eating, cleaning, and all of that,
Mhm.
is another 4 hours. So rest remaining 12 hours. You are saying basically that 10 to 12 hours was pretty much working, studying, preparing college
Yes.
assignments, going to college, on campus job, and all of that. Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes,
nice.
100%. You barely get any free time. I took my first, like, I feel all of my roommates, not just me, all of us like took our first proper time off. Was either you get amazing thing is your Thanksgiving break in between. So
Mm.
during that time,
And then November. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, or like
yeah.
after the semester ends, but you barely get any time to do anything else than work and study and then search for jobs and all those things. Like you barely get any time other than.
But ultimately, it was worth the journey, and you made it. So I'm so glad you did.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely.
This has been such an enlightening episode for me. I learned a lot. So can't wait to dig into your NYU journey. We've talked
Yes.
about how he got the interview calls. This is how he cracked the interview calls. Now we're gonna film how like his entire NYU journey went from mechanical to becoming a data scientist. So I'm excited to talk about that. I'll put the links all over here in the description. Go check it out and also leave his social media. Until our
Yes.
next one.
Keep hustling. Gotta hustle every single day.